First Officer K. Thax's secondary antennae quivered with alarm as the detection grid lit up across the monitoring chamber of Outpost Zeta-17. The outpost, positioned at the very edge of Galactic Confederation space, rarely registered anything more interesting than the occasional merchant vessel or science expedition requesting clearance. "Security breach in Sector 9, shouted Sensor Chief Vexlaw, her crystalline appendages clicking rapidly across the holographic interface. "Unknown vessel has crossed the boundary marker at coordinates 547.32. 981. K. Thax moved swiftly to the main display, all 6 of his eyes focusing on the readout. "Classification? Running analysis," Vexlaw responded. After a moment, her voice dropped to a concerned whisper. "By the void. It's a warship. Human design." A tense silence fell over the monitoring chamber. The Confederation's recent integration of Earth into its diplomatic sphere had been controversial from the start. Humans were considered unpredictable, aggressive, and worst of all, historically prone to territorial expansion through military means. "Alert the commander," K. Thax ordered. "Initiate first-stage containment protocols." Within moments, Commander Zarelka entered the chamber, her massive reptilian form moving with surprising grace despite her advanced age. 60 cycles of military service had left her scales dull and scarred, but her mind remained as sharp as ever. "Report," she demanded, taking her position at the command nexus. K. Thax gestured to the main display. "Human Warship Commander. Confederation Registry, IHS 117, designation Dauntless. It has penetrated 2 light minutes beyond the established boundary. No communication, no clearance request." Commander Zelka's throat sac inflated slightly, a sign of concern among her species. "Are we certain of the identification?" "Verified and confirmed," Vexlaw replied. "The vessel matches design specifications provided during the Earth integration protocols. Heavy cruiser class, approximately 430 crew members, armed with kinetic weapons and fusion-based energy cannons. Primitive but effective," Zarelka noted grimly. "Open a communication channel." The communications officer complied, sending the standard greeting and warning in both Confederation Standard and English. After 3 attempts with no response, Zelka's patience visibly thinned. "Deploy intercept drones. Non-aggressive stance, but I want detailed scans of that vessel." K. Thax exchanged worried glances with Vexlaw. This was precisely the scenario the skeptics had warned about when humans were granted provisional Confederation membership. Their history was littered with territorial conflicts, and many species had argued that humans simply weren't ready for galactic citizenship. Commander K. Thax ventured cautiously. "Should we notify Central Command? This could constitute an act of war under Statute 7 of the Confederation Charter." Commander Zelka considered this for a moment. "Not yet. I want more information before we trigger a diplomatic incident. Humans are unpredictable, but not foolish. A single warship against the Confederation would be suicide." As the intercept drones approached the human vessel, the sensor displays suddenly spiked with new data. "Commander?" Vexlaw called out. "I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations from the human ship. Their main reactor is showing irregular patterns. And there's radiation leakage." The tactical display updated, showing a spreading cloud of radioactive particles trailing behind the vessel. "Life signs?" Zelka demanded. "Present, but erratic. Many areas of the ship are showing environmental failures." K. Thax felt his antennae droop slightly. "They're not invading," he realized aloud. "They're in distress." Commander Zarelka moved quickly to the communication station. "Broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. Human vessel, Dauntless. This is Confederation Outpost Zeta-17. We detect you are experiencing critical systems failure. Do you require assistance? For several tense moments, there was nothing. Then, a garbled transmission broke through, accompanied by a visual feed showing a smoke-filled command bridge. A human female, in a torn uniform, appeared, her face streaked with what Thax recognized as the red fluid humans called blood. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the IHS Dauntless," the human said, her voice strained. "We've experienced a catastrophic failure in our fold space drive. Multiple hull breaches, life support failing. We had no choice but to make an emergency exit from fold space. We apologize for the border violation. We couldn't control our exit coordinates." Commander Zelka's expression softened slightly. "Captain Reyes, we are dispatching emergency response vessels to your location. Can your ship be moved?" "Negative," came the reply. "Main propulsion is offline. We've lost 27 crew members already. Our reactor containment is holding for now, but we can't guarantee for how long." Thax watched as Zesa straightened to her full impressive height, a gesture of respect among her people. "Captain, I am Commander Zelka. I hereby grant emergency clearance for your vessel and invoke the Confederation Aid Protocol. Medical and engineering teams will arrive within 30 minutes. Hold your position and continue containment efforts. We will handle the rest." "Thank you, Commander," Captain Reyes replied, visible relief washing over her features. "We are in your debt." As the connection closed, Thax approached his commander. "Sir, the Dauntless is classified as a military vessel. The aid protocol typically only applies to civilian ships." Zelka turned all four of her eyes toward him. "First Officer Thax, today I remind you of the most important regulation in our charter. Sentient life transcends political boundaries. That vessel contains over 400 beings who will die without our help." "Of course, Commander," Thax acknowledged. "I'll coordinate the rescue operation personally." 6 hours later, the crisis had transformed into a different kind of challenge. The Dauntless's crew had been evacuated to the outpost medical facilities, and containment vessels had secured the damaged warship, preventing an environmental disaster. However, the diplomatic implications were just beginning to unfold. The Central Diplomatic Council is requesting hourly updates, Thax informed Commander Zelka as they walked through the medical bay. "And 3 members of the Security Council have filed formal protests regarding our decision to bring a human warship into Confederation space." "Let them protest," Zelka replied calmly. "I'll submit my full report when these people are no longer in danger." They stopped at the bed of Captain Reyes, who was awake but weakened from radiation exposure and injuries sustained during the accident. She attempted to sit up when she noticed them. "Please remain still," Zelka said gently. "Your body needs time to respond to the medical treatments." "Commander," Reyes said, her voice stronger than before, "I need to address the diplomatic situation. Our presence here violates at least 6 different provisions of the Earth Confederation Treaty." Thax was surprised by the humans' concern for diplomatic protocols, while still recovering from life-threatening injuries. "Captain," Zelka replied, "the circumstances clearly indicate an emergency situation, not a deliberate incursion. However, there is a matter that requires clarification." She gestured to Thax, who activated a holographic display showing the Dauntless's flight path. "Your vessel was registered for a routine patrol along the Beta Quadrant," Zelka continued. "You were nearly 3 sectors away from your filed flight plan when the accident occurred. The Security Council is concerned about this discrepancy." Captain Reyes closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, Thax noticed a new resolution in her gaze. "I was hoping to address this after our immediate survival was secured," she said. "The truth is, we were not on a routine patrol. We were tracking a smuggling vessel suspected of trafficking Xerillian dream spores into Earth territory." Thax's antennae straightened in alarm. "Xerillian dream spores," were one of the most strictly controlled substances in the galaxy, a powerful psychotropic that could permanently alter neural pathways in most carbon-based life forms. Our patrol detected an unregistered ship exhibiting the radiation signature associated with Dreamspore containment, Rice continued. We pursued it into the Fold space corridor, but they deployed some kind of disruptor technology we hadn't encountered before. It destabilized our Fold space envelope, causing the catastrophic failure that brought us here. Commander Zerka exchanged glances with K-Thax. Why was the Confederation not informed of this pursuit? Dreamspore trafficking is a matter for joint task forces under Section 12 of the treaty. That's the problem, Reyes said, wincing as she shifted position. We've identified at least 3 instances where smuggling reports filed through official channels were compromised. Shipments disappeared right before scheduled interdiction operations. We believe there may be a leak within the joint communication systems. K-Thax felt a chill run through his body. You're suggesting Confederation personnel may be involved in Dreamspore trafficking? I'm suggesting, Reyes replied carefully, that someone with access to secure communications might be. That's why we acted independently. Commander Zerelka was silent for a long moment. This is a serious accusation, Captain. Do you have evidence? In our ship's secured data core. If your technical teams can recover it, I'll provide the decryption keys. 3 days later, K-Thax stood with Commander Zelka in the outpost's secure communication chamber as she concluded her report to the Central Diplomatic Council. And therefore, I recommend commendation for Captain Reyes and the crew of the Dauntless rather than censure, she finished. Their actions, while technically in violation of treaty boundaries, were motivated by a genuine security concern that has now been validated by the evidence recovered from their data core. The Council members, 12 representatives from various Confederation species, deliberated briefly before the chairperson, a Valaxian diplomat, spoke. Commander Zelka, your report and recommendations are noted. The Council has dispatched a special investigative team to follow the evidence of corruption within our communication systems. As for the border violation, we concur that emergency circumstances mitigate the infraction. After the communication ended, K-Thax turned to his commander. Do you think this will affect human-Confederation relations? Zelka's throat sac expanded and contracted her species equivalent of a thoughtful sigh. Undoubtedly, but perhaps not in the way many would expect. The humans demonstrated both initiative in pursuing a threat and restraint in how they handled the diplomatic aftermath. They may be more adaptable than many of us assumed. Lyra smiled. Earth philosophies have similar concepts. To know something, you must become it, and it must become you. When I said you are inside me now, during our connection, Naya continued, I was experiencing that dissolution. The fear came not from your presence in my consciousness, but from the realization that the boundary I had always perceived between myself and other was perhaps more permeable than I had believed. A frightening thought, Lyra acknowledged. Yes, Naya's colors pulsed softly, but also a liberating one. If the boundaries between Mithrian and human can dissolve, even temporarily, what other divisions might prove less fixed than we imagine? As the Harmony continued its mission, that question became the guiding principle of the Neural Connection program. The trembling vulnerability Naya had experienced became recognized not as a bug in the system, but as its most essential feature, the moment when true understanding became possible. For it was only in that trembling recognition of complete exposure that 2 vastly different forms of consciousness could truly say to each other, I see you as you are, from the inside out, and still I accept you,